Sensational scenes at the Australian Open as umpire tries to keep party court quiet. Cries of "Alex, Alex, Alex" reverberated around Melbourne Park on Monday afternoon. While the Australian Open's party court is often the loudest corner of the tennis precinct, today, the decibels went through the roof as 20-year-old Filipino star Alexandra Ila took on American Alicia Parks. Thousands of fans had turned up at Melbourne Park hoping to catch a glimpse of the world number 49. Who has risen to become one of the most exciting young prospects on the WTA Tour. But much to their disappointment, there was heartache for the 20-year-old, who suffered a 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 defeat by Parks. It has been a sensational 12 months for Ila, who notably became the first female star from the Philippines to rise to number 50 in the world. This week at the Australian Open, she is also the only Filipino in the draw for the women's singles. Her rise up the rankings came after her sensational run at the Miami Open in 2025, where she swept aside Jelena Ostapenko, reigning Australian Open champion Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek to reach the semifinals of the tournament. Continue reading. But much to their disappointment, there was heartache for the 20-year-old, who suffered a 0-6, 6-3, 6-2 defeat by Parks. It has been a sensational 12 months for Ila, who notably became the first female star from the Philippines to rise to number 50 in the world. This week at the Australian Open, she is also the only Filipino in the draw for the women's singles. Her rise up the rankings came after her sensational run at the Miami Open in 2025, where she swept aside Jelena Ostapenko, reigning Australian Open champion Madison Keys and Iga Swiatek to reach the semifinals of the tournament. Later in the year, Ila advanced to reach the final of the Eastbourne Open and would also notably stun 14th-seed Clara Tauson during the first round of the women's singles at the US Open. Many tennis fanatics have been fervently following the 20-year-old's progress, and on Monday, thousands of supporters queued up outside Court 6, hoping to get a seat to watch Ila play. Many were unfortunately turned away from the arena due to the limited seats on offer, but it is clear that the supporters would have filled out one of Melbourne Park's show courts. Many who were unable to gain access instead gathered to watch the big screens in Melbourne Park's Garden Square. Inside the stands at Court 6, the passionate supporters cheered wildly, "Let's go, Alex, let's go." Many also waved Philippine flags aloft whenever Ila won a point. The support was outstanding, but at times, the chair umpire on the party court struggled to control the audience and was forced to remind fans to remain quiet on multiple occasions. Half an hour into the match, the fans broke into a state of delirium as Ila closed out the first set 6-0, forcing Parks to slam a ground stroke into the net. "Yeah, it was so heartwarming," Ila said on the crowd support. "That's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder. The fact that everyone came out and really squeezed into that cozy court. I really appreciate it. I felt so loved." The sun hung low over Melbourne Park, molten and unapologetic, turning the blue hard court into a shimmering stage. This was not center court with its hushed reverence and polite applause. This was the party court, where tennis wore sunglasses, where the bass from nearby speakers pulsed like a second heartbeat, and where silence was not a tradition but a suggestion. By the time the umpire climbed into the high chair, the crowd was already in full voice. Plastic cups clinked. Someone laughed too loudly. Somewhere in the stands, a chant began, offbeat, half-drunk, and wildly enthusiastic. It rolled down the concrete steps like a wave with no intention of stopping. The players walked out into noise. Not applause but atmosphere, the sound of summer spilling over itself. The umpire cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, please." The microphone amplified his plea, but it barely skimmed the surface of the roar. This court had a personality, and tonight it was feeling bold. From the first serve, the tension was clear. Not between the players, they were professionals, focused, coiled, precise, but between order and chaos. Every rally was punctuated by whistles, whoops, and shouts that arrived half a second too late. A forehand winner drew cheers mid-swing. A double fault was met with sympathetic groans and ironic applause. The umpire tried again. "Please respect the players." A pause. A few people quieted. Then, from the back rows, a voice rang out. "We are respecting them." Laughter exploded. Even one of the players cracked a reluctant smile before resetting at the baseline. This was the strange magic of the party court. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't cruel. It was just alive, too alive for the traditional rhythms of tennis etiquette. Hey, the crowd didn't merely watch the match. It participated in it, whether invited or not. As the match tightened, so did the umpire's patience. Quiet, please, during play. This time the word please was sharper, more clipped, as if it had been sanded down by repetition. He leaned forward in the chair, scanning the stands like a schoolteacher facing the last period on a Friday afternoon. For a moment, just a moment, the court obeyed. The server bounced the ball. Once, twice. Then a phone rang. Not a polite buzz. A full volume, early 2000s pop song blared through the silence like a prank timed to perfection. The crowd howled with laughter. The saver stopped, stayed into the stands, hands on hips. The receiver shook his head, grinning despite himself. The umpire closed his eyes. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice steady but strained, "this is your final warning." The phrase hung in the air, dramatic and futile all at once. Everyone knew there would be another warning. And another. The party court thrived on boundaries because it loved pushing against them. Between points, the crowd began to clap rhythmically. Not for a winner. Not for an error. Just because. It started with 3 people. Then 10. Then an entire section. The sound echoed, bouncing off the steel beams overhead, growing louder, faster, until it felt like the court itself was applauding its own existence. The umpire stood. Stopped the clapping. They didn't. Security edged closer to the aisles. A few fans were gently shushed, a few stern looks exchanged. But the energy refused to be contained. It spilled over the barriers, into the players' expressions, into the way the match felt less like a contest and more like a performance unfolding in real time. And yet, amid the noise, the madness, the borderline anarchy, something remarkable happened. The players adapted. They waited longer before serves. They laughed off interruptions. They fed off the crowd's energy, turning frustration into fire. A blistering rally drew a roar so loud it felt physical, like a gust of wind hitting the chest. When a point ended, both players paused, letting the sound wash over them before preparing for the next. The umpire, watching this shift, softened, just slightly.